right, Leaf fans, we're back. Sorry for the hiatus last game, but fortunately I couldn't make a video after that one. But yeah, tough game. Tough game on this one. I think we all expected them to lose this one. Would have been nice to come out and get a win, but they just looked off. They just looked off tonight. They didn't come out with any ambition. They looked a little tentative. They couldn't make crisp passes, especially in the offensive zone. They just weren't getting anything going. The cycle wasn't working. Even their power plays were just not on tonight. Florida did a good job of defending that, so give credit where it's due. But the boys just looked off tonight. They really just did not come out with a passion to win, and it's unfortunate to see. Kind of expected it, but what can you do? Wall played great tonight. That's the only reason it was even a close game at all. Made a lot of good stops, kept the boys in it there. Thought maybe there could have been a comeback, but the offense just wasn't there tonight. Matthews, again, just wasn't there. He looks like he's favoring something. He really just kind of was a shadow of himself tonight, unfortunately. Marner, too. Marner had a god-awful game. I'm not here to give him shit or anything like that, but, man, he had a bad game tonight. Every time he was getting a pass, he either pass it to where nobody was, or every time takes a shot, it gets blocked. It's in the shin pads. It's just, giving up plays. It was not a good game for him. He was getting beat up too. I forget who it was exactly, but someone had a nice little headshot on him earlier in the game. And Florida's a dirty team. And the Leafs got to respond with something not similar, but they got to have an edge to their game. That's the one thing Florida does really well. They have a really good edge to their game to really just kind of grind your gears, get underneath your skin, and they just grind you down one hit at a time, even if it's clean or not. They'll do it. Unfortunately, the refs don't really seem to call too much, at least on the Panthers tonight. Leafs got 4 penalties in the first, a couple more during the game too. So, that's what really killed us tonight too, is just the penalties that some were warranted, some were not. Some of them were softies, but that's just how it goes, right? It's what the refs are calling. There's not much you can do about that, but I would like to see the refs put away their whistles in this series a little bit more. They seem to be calling, upwards of 8, sometimes 10 penalties a game, it seems like, which, you got to let the players flow. You got to let them play it out, and, obviously you got to call the penalties that are penalties, but it seems like there's a little bit too much, ref interference in this series. I think it's because they both know they're very physical teams, so they're trying to keep a lid on the whole violence in this series, but it's kind of ruining the gameplay a little bit, in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think, but personally, I don't like it. The McMahon man hit takes a guy in the boards there. It's a boarding penalty. Earlier in the game, or before the game, Berube had talked to McMahon about, being a little more edgy, coming out, playing a little bit harder. He was a good player in the regular season, but he just came out kind of flat in these playoffs. He's kind of been a ghost, right? So talk to him, hoping to get him kind of fired up for this game, and I think he did a little bit too good of a job maybe, because comes out, takes a horrible penalty like that. Not a horrible hit, but bad enough that you're going to get a call for that pretty much every time. So luckily, Leafs pretty much killed that off, but still, just being killed with the penalties tonight was brutal. What else we got going on here? Leafs got a couple power plays too. Again, tonight, I think Florida just did a really good job of killing them off, not giving them any time and space whatsoever. When you compare this game to the first two, last game was kind of a different thing because the Leafs came out quick. But if you compare this to the first two, there's a lot more time and space for the guys out there. This game, they just shut all that down. They had really good man-to-man coverage. They didn't give him any time, any space. All the shots were blocked. All the passes were interfered with. It was just really tough out there, and you could see it. I mean, they barely even got any zone time there for the power play, so that was tough. And, if we're not building momentum on the power play, especially if you're not scoring, but at least you have a good power play and you keep the energy going, you can really make something out of it. But tonight, it almost seemed to hurt us, to be honest with you. It was tough. Nylander looked good. Again, not as good as he should have looked, but he did make some plays tonight. He had a breakaway. He had a couple good shots. Everything seemed to be around the net. Nothing too close. That's what's frustrating. Everybody tonight, I don't know what it is, but hit the net, boys. Every shot tonight was either just sailed over the net, was wide. Nyes had a breakaway too, sails it over the left side of the net. It's so tough when you get the limited opportunities that you get, and you basically just throw them away. That's what's tough about seeing a game like this is the Leafs do get chances, but when they get them, they just flop on them. You one chance there where Nylander was wide open waiting for a pass. Riley chooses to put it on net instead, and you got a guy open there ready for a one-timer, and that's just how it goes tonight. They weren't seeing each other clearly. They were trying to force the game instead of letting the game come to them, or at least take the opportunities that they had and do something with it. And it just looked a little fuzzled tonight. I'm not sure what was that. Maybe a little bit too much partying in Florida. Who knows? But Florida came out good. What can you say? That's kind of what we expected. Going back to Toronto now. Maybe it's one of those series where, every team just wins at home. So last 2 of these 3 games are going to be in Toronto. Maybe that can give the boys a little bit of an edge on this one. Typically the Leafs aren't the best at home, but in this series seems to make a difference. So that's something we can at least put our hopes and prayers on, at least. So who knows? Not too much else on this game. Kind of just one you got to just shake your head at and say, we'll get him next time. So until next game, let's hope it goes well. And as always, cheers.